All right. Hello, everybody. I hope you all are doing well. This is the NBA Tournament Strategy Show, where on this show, we look at last night's slate. We look at today's slate. We go game by game, see if there's any guys that we like pretty early on. And then on the pre-lock show, which is at 5:30 p.m. Eastern for VIP members only, link is in the description. Feel free to use the promo code BOB if you're interested. We go through leverage plays, core plays, guys we're going under on, all the fun stuff. And really just how I'm utilizing the domination station that night. So let's jump right into it, y'all. JJ Wasabi, good to see you, man. Let's just jump right into things. There's no reason to delay it. This was the $100,000 winning lineup on last night's slate. For me, I had a solid slate. It wasn't extremely profitable, but I was pretty close to breaking even, which I will take. And we were on a lot of these plays. I think, unfortunately, the one guy I didn't have any exposure to was Zach Collins. So a little bit of a rookie mistake there, but you know what happens. We talked about it on the pre-lock show. We said if Keldon Johnson's out, that benefits everyone. We talked about it on this show too. That benefits the Spurs a ton. We had a lot of value last night, so there were a lot of options available. And so I think a lot of people just didn't force exposure to Graham, force exposure to Sachan, force exposure to Zach Collins. Graham was someone that we had a min on already on the pre-lock show at 10%. I did increase that once we found out Keldon Johnson was going to be out. Similar story with Sachan. I forced exposure to him once we found out he was playing and starting and Keldon Johnson was out. So once you did that, I think it did make last night a little bit better, at least for me. Bradley Beal was a leverage play. I don't know if he was quite a core play. He was close to a core play. We were over the field on him. I do remember that. Josh Hart, look at him coming in for the revenge game narrative. He wasn't someone that I forced exposure to, but the Domination Station gave me some exposure by itself. So thank you, Domination Station, for that. Evan Mobley was a core play. Again, he didn't really crush last night, but he panned out. So I'm glad that worked out that way. Wendell Carter Jr. wasn't a core play, wasn't a leverage play, but the Domination Station liked him enough. Again, he was one of those guys that I was pretty indifferent to. I knew he was in a fantastic spot. I felt like he definitely had some potential upside. He didn't even have a crazy good game, but he made the 100K winning lineup, which is all that matters. So we were naturally at least 10% over the field on Wendell Carter Jr. I don't know if we were quite double the field, but we were overweight on him. Karis LeVert was a core play, even though I do wish I didn't lower my exposure to him. I was probably around like 60%, I think, maybe 70. Definitely wish I would have kept like the 80, 90% on him. And we talked about these guys. All in all, solid night. Can't complain about it. Definitely wish we could have been a little bit more efficient and not have been as high on Garland, but Garland made sense, and honestly, I would do that every slate. So, uh, I think there was someone else I was high on, but I don't recall it. So anyway, moving to this slate, it's another interesting one with quite a few. We already have some big names out, quite a few important questionable tags. So it's looking like a promising slate. I'm always excited about that, at least. We're starting off with the Memphis Grizzlies. They're a bit boring these days. John Morant's been out for a while. Vince Williams Jr. is out. Jake LaRavia is out. Brandon Clark's out. And Steven Adams has been out. All those guys have been out for a while, and or they're just not super impactful players. So this is a situation where no one's standing out for me a ton. It also helps because the matchup against the Heat is not one that I love to pick on too much. Jaren Jackson Jr. is always on my radar as a potential leverage play, but on tonight's slate, I'm not loving it too much. Let's see. Sim Model, do you like him more? Yeah, Sim Model's okay with him. It likes his upside a little bit, but it likes other guys I like a bit more too. Which again, we'll talk about when we get there. But JJJ, if he pops up in some of my lines, fine with it, but just not a play that I'm super excited about. And again, for those of you that don't know, I don't X guys out of my player pool. It's just not how I do things, but I do want to make sure I just don't have too much exposure to these guys. It's kind of the way I'm thinking about it right now. Okay, cool. Next up, we have the Miami Heat. The Heat, again, they've just been so boring here lately. We have Kyle Lowry listed as questionable. Zeller's out. Orlando Robinson's out. Jovic has been out for a while. Um, it's just not a game I'm super pumped up about. Jimmy Butler, we talk about it all the time, is viable in these closer games. He just tends to have better performances, especially when the spread's close. 4 is a solid number, but it's not extremely close. But ultimately, I'm just not super excited about this team. I'm fine with some exposure, but not guys I'm trying to force tonight. Kevin Love looks like he's looking like a relatively chalky, popular play. To be honest, not my favorite. I don't expect to be over the field on Kevin Love tonight at 4K. If he's a little bit cheaper, I'll be down for it. I'm fine with being around field weight, even though I still don't really love that either. But it's cool. For the 76ers, let's see. Who do they have in... again, another healthy team. Jalen McDaniels is questionable, so that kind of matters. But for the most part, matchup against the Cleveland Cavaliers isn't something that stands out for me too much. Embiid is always a viable play. I don't think we have to talk about that too much. I think Embiid's interesting here. If he was lower owned, I would be more interested in making him a leverage play. The matchup against the Cleveland Cavs isn't my favorite matchup. I'm interested to see if Jared Allen plays. He's TBD right now, but if he ends up being ruled out, the matchup is slightly softer for Embiid here. So I can make a case for going over the field on him, but as things stand for right now, I'm not super pumped up about it. But yeah, not my favorite spot for sure. Dave, good to see you, man. Hope you're doing all right. Hope life's treating you well on this Wednesday. Halfway through the week, it's like we're almost there. Yeah, you're right. Dave, I appreciate you so much, man. You don't even know. Don't forget to hit the like button, share, subscribe. We're getting our sub numbers are increasing, which is good. But always appreciate the support that you all bring to the table. For the Cleveland Cavs, Donovan Mitchell looks like he's gonna play tonight. Jared Allen is listed as TBD. The matchup against the Sixers isn't my favorite. The ownership on Garland also isn't my favorite. But we've seen Allen perform all right in tough spots before. So, and his price tag's just a little bit too cheap. So I understand why he's getting ownership. Garland, I'm more so interested in if Allen is out. I think this could be a potential. It's not sneaky. He's already popular, but I do think this could be a potential high upside spot for Garland. He disappointed us last night. I wish his ownership was lower because of the disappointment, but as of the way things stand right now, he's not my favorite point guard on the slate, or even like my top 3. But just because of his price tag, I'll probably end up just having some exposure. But there's other guards I like more. Unless Allen is out, then Garland sees a nice increase for me. Mitchell, 9,300, not super interested. I'm okay with him as like a one-off, but don't love it. And again, like I don't love it because of the matchup. Because of the matchup mostly against the 76ers, and he doesn't see the same boost Garland sees with Allen out, so it's just not a spot that I find very favorable. All right, for the Kings, man, the Kings have been that team this year, and once again, they don't really have a lot of guys out. We have Rashawn Holmes listed as out. We'll see what the sim model thinks about Sabonis and Fox, but I doubt they're guys I'm going to have a ton of exposure to. Not the biggest fan of Sabonis, and Fox, it's okay with him, but it does like other guys around him a bit more, and I kind of agree with that. So yeah, not a team I'm planning on forcing exposure to a lot. I'm okay with getting some exposure to guys like Hoyter, Barnes, Monk, Murray, but not guys that I'm actively trying to put into my lines. They're just guys I'm just okay with having a rotation of. Like I've been saying all year, these guys are streaky shooters. I don't think you can really trust these guys on a consistent basis, especially in a matchup that's pretty average to unfavorable. So just not a spot I'm loving. I promise these games get better. Just a slow start. Slow start. All right. Next up for the Bulls, again, pretty healthy. Javonte Green, Lonzo Ball. are out. They've been out for a while. No surprises there. Um, no one really stands out for me here too much. I think Levine, DeRozan, Vucevic are viable plays on this slate, but not guys I'm trying to force exposure to. So, well, Domination Station control my fate on those guys, unless one of them start popping for some reason as I do more research. But as of right now, I'm not loving it. For Alex Caruso, he's just one of those value options. We don't have a ton of value on this slate, so that's why you're seeing ownership on some of these cheap guys, like 3,400 on Caruso, and there was someone else in the last game who was just kind of chalky because we don't have a ton of value. For the Celtics, we have let's see who's in, who's out. Peyton Pritchard's out. Robert Williams is still out. Danilo Gallinari is still out. But those no names that really matter too much here. Williams has been out for a little while now, so everyone's priced pretty appropriately. Tatum is again another stud that's always viable on slates like this. I don't hate the matchup. I just wish someone else was out, and so I was more excited to play him. He's not significantly higher owned than Brown, and so I don't feel like I have to make a pivot to Brown in this situation. If I'm going to play someone from this team, it's going to be Jason Tatum, but I just haven't been. I'm just not completely set and sold on that yet. It does look like Derek White and Marcus Smart are projecting well. Marcus Smart's interesting. I prefer to take a shot on him when Brogdon and White are out, but at his price tag at 5,400, 5,400, I'm willing to have some exposure here, but again, still someone that's not popping for me too much. For the Timberwolves, we have Rudy Gobert listed as questionable. Naz Reid is listed as questionable. I think we all know how important that news is. Rudy Gobert has been playing through these questionable tags here lately, but he's also missed some. So something that we just need to keep a close eye on, because if Rudy Gobert's out, then Naz Reid becomes a play. If Naz Reid is out, that secures Rudy Gobert's minutes a bit more because they'll need him to be out there. I think we have to talk about Kyle Anderson. He's been in fantastic form. Thankfully, his price has gone up a little bit, so he's a little bit more appropriately priced at this point, which is why we're not seeing a lot of ownership. Also, it's just a tough matchup against the Celtics. Again, they're not the same defensive team that they were last year, but they're still a team I don't like to pick on very much. So I'm comfortable not having a ton of exposure to Kyle Anderson tonight, but looks like no one is, so that's not shocking. But he has been better here recently since the Conley trade happened. He's been a lot more consistent, which is nice to see. He's also just looked better too, which is something that I like to consider. Let's see. Anthony Edwards at 9,400. Yeah, not a bad play. He's has a similar upside to Harden, slightly better than like Mitchell and Brown, but again, not super exciting. We've been on the Anthony Edwards train for a while. I don't think he's an unplayable guy tonight, but just not someone I'm excited about. Would rather take a shot on like Rudy Gobert or Naz Reid with whoever ends up playing here. All right, finally we get to some interesting games. The Lakers, the one and only Anthony Davis, is already ruled out, which is nice to see. Nice to already have that news. He's not questionable. We don't have to worry about anything. We just know he's going to play. And so that's honestly all I really need to see. So Anthony Davis is out, like I said. LeBron James has been out for a while now. Those are two big usage pieces for this team that are going to be gone. And this team has no one who's more expensive than 8K. Someone has to do something tonight. They're facing a god-awful Rockets team, and the spread is close, which is something we never see against a Rockets team. So I really like the Lakers tonight. I think everyone will. But D'Angelo Russell has to be your favorite Laker. He's been dominating from a usage standpoint this season. He should, since joining the Lakers, he should dominate even more of Anthony Davis out. Love the spot for him. Dennis Schroeder, I think ownership, we might not have that updated for him yet, but I think Dennis Schroeder is a viable play as well. He leads this team in usage when James, Davis, and Westbrook are off the court, and so I'm going to have exposure to him. Once we get that ownership updated, I'll adjust based on wherever we have him, but I'll be over the field on him. Malik Beasley's the other guy that I feel pretty confident in, seeing an increasing usage, and I'll be at least over the field on him as well, barring any other injury news that happens. So I really like the Lakers tonight, primarily Russell, Schroeder, Beasley. I feel pretty good about them, and at least knowing that they'll be involved in the offense. Um, Guys that make sense, but I have a little bit more reservation around are guys like Wenyen Gabriel, Rui Hachimura, and my guy, Jared Vanderbilt. All are viable plays, especially with AD out. I just really want to see the starting lineup. I think most of us are expecting Vanderbilt to start along with Gabriel, but there's a chance Rui Hachimura sneaks up in there as well. So more likely than not, I'm going to have exposure to all three, but I just don't feel as confident about them as I do like D'Angelo Russell and Schroeder in particular. And then outside of that, there's still guys I think we have to consider here. Guys like Troy Brown is one of the lower usage guys on this team, but he starts, or he should start here. And if he goes out there at 4,600 and is actually involved in the offense for once, he definitely has some upside. So for me, naturally, as long as the ownership sticks, I'm always kind of gravitating towards the low owned starter. So he's on my radar for that reason. Austin Reeves is honestly not a guy that I typically force exposure to, but we know he has upside, and he can break a slate for that reason, especially against a really bad Rockets team. So I'm not really ignoring any of these Lakers guys tonight. You can make a case for all of them, but the main ones that I'm forcing exposure to are Russell, Schroeder, Beasley, Hachimura, Gabriel, and Vanderbilt. I like the team, guys. I know a lot of people might not be a big fan of it, but it's a game I like. The Rockets, I wish I could be more on board for. Şungen is questionable. I think if Şungen's out, it does make Terry Eason, a much more viable play. Kevin Porter Jr. is starting to look solid. He had a good game last slate. Jalen Green had a solid game a slate or two before that. These guys, maybe they're starting to get a little bit more serious. I want some exposure to Kevin Porter Jr. tonight. I don't think I can stomach like a 30% min on Kevin Porter Jr., making him a leverage play, but I want to be around field weight on him at least. And then, like I said, if Şungen's out, and that's a boost to Eason. Jabari Smith has been in solid form as well, but I doubt I'm getting there on this slate. But Eason and Kevin Porter Jr. are the main Rockets I'm considering. The Mavericks are another team that's looking a little interesting. We're waiting on some news for them, but Luka Doncic's already out. Kyrie Irving's questionable, Tim Hardaway Jr. is questionable, and Christian Wood is questionable. Now, I mean, I think everyone who probably watches the show at this point knows that if Kyrie Irving's out, that's a heck of a boost to Jaden Hardy. At 5,500, I'm willing to go right back. Hopefully he'll have lower ownership because his price has increased, but I'm willing to go right back. He's facing a god-awful Spurs defense. I just don't have any major concerns unless they just decide to get weird with minutes. But Kyrie Irving's out. I'm playing Hardy. Other guys who would see an increase for me are guys like Josh Green alongside that. And then if Tim Hardaway Jr. plays, I know he burned a lot of us last time around. I'll be willing to go over the field on him too. But a little tougher to know what's going to happen there with him being questionable. And I know a lot of us played Maxi Kleber too. Last time Christian Wood was out, I don't think that went very well. I don't recall what happened there. So I'm gonna need to dig a little bit deeper into that situation to make sure that we're not missing anything, but he could be a little sneaky as well. Even though I'm getting a lot of my center plays from that Lakers game. So it's gonna be a little tough to figure out who we're getting. We saw how important the Spurs news was last night because it really dictated the way the slate went. And once again, we have quite a few questionable tags. Keldon Johnson is listed as TBD. Devin Vassell is listed as TBD. Malachi Branham is listed as TBD. Trey Jones is listed as TBD. Romeo Langford is expected to play. I think you guys know for me, if Langford is playing, I just don't even think about playing Keita Bates-Diop. I don't know why that correlation has happened in my head, but it's a rule I've been living by this year, and it's worked out for me pretty well. If Romeo Langford is out, I'm willing to play Keita Bates Diop. If he's in, I don't play Keita Bates Diop. So hopefully that continues to ring true. And then if I had to guess, I do think more of the Spurs starters are going to play tonight. It was a back-to-back for them, so it makes sense that they sat some guys last night. It looks like some of these guys are already looking like they're going to be super chalky. Like if Keldon Johnson plays, if he's at 50% ownership, I get it. He's only 6,700 and he has a ton of upside in a matchup without where the Mavericks are going to be a little shorthanded potentially. Just having a ton of exposure to Spurs guys never feels good. Being over the field on Devontae Graham was easy yesterday because he was low owned. Similar story with Sachan, but like when you don't have that, it just feels like bleh. But if we get the news Keldon Johnson's playing, I'm okay having exposure. I don't know if I'll be able to get over the field on him. I doubt it, to be honest. Trey Jones is another one. I like Trey Jones when other people are out, so I don't really foresee myself getting to him a ton. Like again, I'll probably be around like 10, 20, 30%, but I doubt I'll be over the field on him unless we really are just that desperate for value tonight. But yeah, a lot here is just going to be dependent upon who actually ends up playing. There's some value option here as well, but for me, again, it just really depends on who actually ends up playing tonight. If everyone's healthy and playing, I don't think we need to go all the way down here. All right, for the Warriors, they're pretty much healthy too. Iguodala's out, Lamb's out, Wiggins has been out for a while. The biggest news is Kuminga being probable. He should play here tonight, which is a bit of a downer for like Looney and Green and Draymond Green as well. Just limits their upside a little bit. Doesn't mean they're unplayable. I'm also just very rarely on the Looney train in general, just because I feel like they don't like utilizing him very often. So it is what it is. Curry, kind of like, I think it was 2 slates ago where I was between Curry and Tatum as a leverage play on the slate. I'm in a very similar situation tonight. But I think there's a higher chance I might just make them both leverage plays if no one else starts to stand out or if we don't get any more news. So I like them both. I like Stephen Curry here. Matchup is solid. Klay Thompson is popping a little bit in the sim model, so I want to dig a little bit deeper into that to see if I should jump on board that train. The matchup's fine against the Clippers. They haven't really been that great defensively as of late. So yeah, for me, it's Klay and Curry, and gonna move on. Draymond is looking like he's getting some ownership at 6,100. I get it, but the return of Kuminga makes me a little nervous. A little bit less on board with it than I would have been if Kuminga was out. And then we have the Clippers, and at this point, everyone knows you can play whoever you want against the Warriors, which is why you're seeing decent ownership to Kawhi Leonard and Paul George. Again, I think they're solid plays tonight. The sim model likes them both as well, so I don't think they're bad chalk. I will more than likely at least be around field weight on them, but again, they're hard to make leverage plays. The guys that I'm really just focusing on today are in that Lakers-Rockets game and trying to figure out who's playing in this Mavericks-Spurs game. If we get some injuries in this game, it's also one of the games I'm looking to target. Outside of that, the domination station should give us natural exposure to some of these guys in the Celtics, Timberwolves, Kings, Bulls, Warriors, Clippers games with some one-offs in the first few games. So that's how I'm treating this slate. Appreciate you all for joining me and sticking it out. Hopefully everyone has a lot of success tonight. Look forward to seeing everyone on the pre-lock show. Good luck. Have a good one. Peace out, guys.